Ooh, that looks tasty.
Ooh, wow. The Midsummer Festival's coming up. This is my chance to show everyone that I'm more than just a bookish wizard who lives in a tower out in the swamp. I'm gonna show everyone that I'm the most popular person around by sending all my friends to show up at the party. Now, where's that spell book about summoning magical friends?
Welcome, folks. Today, the Hungry Gamer is back with another Kickstarter preview, and today we are talking about magical friends and how to summon them. Designed by Clemens Luger with Tran Kiet van Ho and Hannah Flattinger, and I do apologize for mispronouncing any of those names. Now, before I get started, please make sure you turn on your Klingon subtitles, because if I make any mistakes in the rules overview, that's where you'll find those corrections. Additionally, I do need to note that everything you see here and will be seeing is still in the prototype phase and is subject to change. And along with that, you can see this particular board is actually not quite flat, but again, that's just because this is a prototype. And what Magical Friends and how to summon them is it is a game in which each player is going to take on the role of one of these four different wizards. And these four different wizards, well, they live by themselves, they're not particularly popular, and they don't really have any friends. However, there is the Midsummer Festival coming up, a big old party, and for whatever reason, each one of these wizards has decided that they're going to have the biggest presence in the party to show that really they aren't just bookworms, they're amazing. Of course, as I said, they are just bookworms, they are not amazing. So what they're going to do is they are going to summon a bunch of creatures and send those creatures in their name to the party. And of course, the other three wizards know this is happening, so they're doing the same thing, and they're going to do their best to destroy your magical friends so they don't actually get to the party. Now, if you are not interested in how this game is played, just want to jump into my final thoughts, then you want to go to the timestamp on the screen right now. For those of us still here, let's talk about how this game is played. So the game is going to be played over 8 rounds. And each round, what you're going to wind up doing is you will be summoning creatures here to whichever one of these little towers happens to be yours. And you'll be sending them from spot to spot until you're able to get them all the way up to the top corner of the board, which is where the party is happening. And then there's another board off to the side where you actually put them when they've arrived. The way it's going to work is each round, and it is slightly different if you're playing a 2-player game, players are going to get to summon a variety of magical friends here. And you'll see here, I just happened to pull out 3 of them, which are the Gnome, the Manticore, and the Medusa. And each one of these happens to come with their own set of standees that go along with it. And I will point out that the prototype has already set standees very, very nicely organized. But so here we have our Manticore, our Medusa, our Manticore, and then our 2 gnomes. And what's important here is less that we have these different standees, but more that we have different abilities on each one of these cards. Take a closer look at our Medusa here. We'll see that if you happen to have 1 magic, and you get magic from various creatures that actually have magic on them, but I'm not going to go into that right now. But if you have 1 magic, any creature that's on the same spot as the Medusa can't be moved. So you can put your Medusa somewhere and just hold up everybody that's on the board. While the gnomes here, you simply get 2 gnomes, which means, well, you can get 2 points at the end of the game if you get them both in. While the Manticore not only can fly so it can move further, but once per turn, it's going to be able to poison people that it passes through. And if you get poisoned twice, then the creature dies. Now, if a creature gets killed, then you wind up getting 2 things. 1, the player who killed it gets a trophy, saying that they've killed it, and whoever has the most trophies at the end of the game is going to get 1 more point. And the person who is killed is going to get a pity power, which is going to give them bonus movement. Now, let's talk about movement. What you'll see here is on the top corner of each card, it has these numbers and footsteps. That means if you draft the Manticore, on the turn that you draft the Manticore, you can move 2 creatures 2 steps, or 2 of the circles on the board, and then 1 creature 1. If you draft the Medusa, you can move 2 creatures 3 steps, and each different creature that you happen to draft in the game is going to have a different setup on the top of how far things are able to move. And as you can see as I'm putting these out, each one also has a whole bunch of different abilities down on the bottom, as you can see. Now, in addition to that, As you're playing through the game, there's all these different paths that you're able to take. And the different paths have different things on them that make them either dangerous to other players or give you bonuses or whatever it may be. However, you also have the ability to change those out. And there are different things that you can add on top of the board that make the paths different. And there's actually one for each side of the board, as well as the space that's in the middle of the board. But I'm not going to go into how all of that works. In addition to that, as I mentioned, as you get creatures into party at the end, you'll be taking them and you just set them up at the seats of wherever it is that you happen, of whoever it is that happened to get them there like so, and that's how you're tracking your points. However, along with that, what you have is this board here. So every turn, you have your cards over here, but you'll have, if you're in 2 to 4 players, a choice of 4 different choices that are out here on the board for you to choose from at the beginning of the turn, and then you're also going to get to see either 1 or 2 of what is coming next. And as things get drafted, everything moves down and you kind of just cycle through the board, as you can imagine. Now, how do you draft them? Each player has 11 different cards numbered 1 through 11, and they also have different bonuses on there. And so what you're going to do is you're going to go around the table and one player will say, you know what, I'm going first, I'm going to bid 2. And what that will mean is that their bid is only 2, so anybody who bids higher than 2 will get to choose the creatures before them, but they're also going to get an extra movement of 2 and an extra magic. Remember I talked about the magic for the Medusa, and that's how you activate that ability. And then the lower the card is, the better the abilities that are on there. But as you go up through it, you'll see that the abilities start to go away as you get higher and higher numbers because that gives you first choice. And so you'll simply play around and around and around up until 8 rounds is over, and then you're going to count up who has the most magical friends in the tavern, and then every time you've killed somebody, you're going to get a trophy. You see who has the most trophies. Whoever has the most trophies gets another point, and then if you have a tiebreaker, you're going to be looking at your leftover cards here, and the highest values are going to win that. So there you have it, folks. That is the basic rules of how this game works. So what do I like about this game? First off, as I'm sure you can guess, I really like the way this game looks. I love the cartooniness of it. I love the, here it comes, say it with me, whimsicality of it. Because I always say I love whimsical games, and I truly do. It makes me happy. And along with that, I find the theme ridiculous and hilarious at the same time. I love this idea. There's a big old party, and for some unknown reason, you've decided that even though you literally don't know anybody, you're going to make the biggest splash at the festival, and you're going to send the most people who are wearing, Team Donnie Dark Matter shirts or whatever. And it's just so silly and so, well, kind of insane that it makes me laugh. Even down to when something gets killed, oh, it is so sad, have some pity power. Like all of it, it's just so ridiculous and so silly. And what it does is it's masking this incredibly mean game. Incredibly, incredibly mean. And I don't always like mean games, but this one just tickles me. It's so hard to be upset when somebody uses the succubus and pulls your unicorn back 2 spaces and oops, it fell into the lava. It's hard to stay mad at that because that is ridiculous. It is so hard to be mad when someone has one of their creatures thrown by their troll into hell where you happen to be and it happens to kill you. Again, that's ridiculous. Hard to be mad about that. And at the same time, I appreciate that at its core, this is a race. This is a race game. But because you have these mini tableaus that you're making, which only last for a little bit because either you get them to the tavern or they get killed, it really keeps the variability and changes the strategy of what you're doing constantly. And that I really, really like. I also appreciate the effort they put into just the prototype to make it easy to get to the standees. And I spoke with the designer and he said that the plan is to have something like that in the final version, so it will still be very quick and easy to pull out the standees. And I do appreciate that. I also like the way you can change the way the board is set up. There's those 3 different places and there are 2 different options of what can be in each spot. And that makes for, I don't know how many, but a bunch of different options for setup that you can have. I think that's a good thing as well. And I'm hopeful that in the stretch goals in the campaign, there will be more of those that you're able to unlock, because that I think will really, really increase the amount of replay value and excitement that you have when you're playing this particular game. And then the last thing that I appreciate is the effort that's gone into all the different monsters, they all have something different. They all are good in their own way, and they can all really combo in ways that are a lot of fun. And it's just kind of up to you to figure out how those combos are going to work and chase down certain combos that are there. And then along with that, I like the way the bidding works. I like the way that it is not a blind bid. It is more like a silent auction type bid where someone puts theirs down, you see what they have done, and you get to decide how you want to react. And you know what's out there, and you know what even the next card is going to be that's going to come into the offering. And that, I think, works really well. And the way that you manage your bids, those 1 through 11, with the extra bonuses that are on the lower cards, and with the fact that a higher value at the end of the game is going to be the tiebreaker, and it is fairly easy to tie at the end of the game, I think all of that works really well together. So, what are my quibbles with the game? First one is, as I said, it's mean. This is a mean game, and there is a potential to gang up on one person. It can happen. It hasn't happened in any games that I've played, but if you are in a group that has a tendency of doing that, it can happen, so be aware of that. I also think that there is a bit of a reading overload that happens the first several times you play the game, because every single one of the cards, well, maybe not all the monsters, but almost all of the monsters have their own special ability, which means when those cards come out, you have to stop and read every single one of them. And until you've learned them, that does bring the game to a bit of a halt while that happens. And it's every single card. Every time something new comes out, there's more stuff to read. How does this one work? How does this interact with this one? What do I do with this? What does this mean? And so on and so on and so on. And so it does mean that for a very simple, fast game, there's actually a large learning curve that goes along with it, at least to get the game to where it's really cooking very fast. The next thing is, I've played the game at 2 players, and I've played the game at higher player counts. And truth be told, 3-4 players is significantly better. And it's significantly better because this is a game that thrives on chaos, I think. And the more people you have out there putting out monsters, doing crazy, weird things, the more fun the game is going to be. And that kind of dovetails into the other thing, my other kind of warning, not really quibble, because if you watch me, you know I love chaos. It's chaotic. This game is at its best when it's at its most chaotic, and you might not like that. Though, that said, if you really don't like chaos, then maybe the 2-player variant is for you. You get to summon more things, you get to do more things each turn, and so maybe that's your jam. I don't know. For me, I think this game thrives with chaos, and that's really what you should be going for with this particular game. But that's it, folks. As always, if I made any mistakes in the rules overview, please let me know in the comments with a timestamp. I'll get that into the Klingon subtitles. If you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.